Have you ever wondered how the scribes and the Pharisees of Matthew 15 are connected with the Canaanite woman of the same chapter? How are they intertwined? Because the Canaanite woman, she didn't even live in Jerusalem. She didn't. She lived in the outskirts. Jesus goes out there to meet her. This was a rendezvous that she didn't know about. But when she heard he was coming around, she showed up. How are they intertwined? Okay, so the Canaanite woman wanted Jesus to deliver her daughter because her daughter was possessed by a demon. So what does this have to do with the scribes and the Pharisees? I'm glad you asked. Okay, the scribes and Pharisees were dealing with ritual purity. They would pray before they eat, which you should. They would wash their hands before they ate. It dealt with just normal cleanliness stuff. Like if you've been to the bathroom, if you've worked outside, if you've touched something dead or anything. But there was something else that was there. Part of this ritual cleansing had to do with keeping a demon out. It was. You had to wash your hands in running water, meaning water that was poured on your hands. And you had to let it trickle down your fingers. Because this was to keep a demon away. Now, both of them, the scribes and Pharisees, and the Canaanite woman, wanted the same thing. They didn't want any parts of a demon. They did not. But they went about it two different ways. The scribes and Pharisees dealt with it with works, their own man-made thinking. They used this to lord over people. Now, the Canaanite woman, she went to Christ. Now, many of you would be like, well, she has no right. She has no right to go into the presence of someone that is so holy because she's a Canaanite. And some of y'all will be like, what do you mean? Okay, she comes from Canaan, Noah's grandson, the one that positioned Noah's body in such a way so he could be embarrassed, so everybody could see him being naked. That was Canaan. And I know everybody's there. You got people that saying, no, it was Ham. It was not. Check the Hebrew. All you got to do is, okay. So Canaan was the one that did it. Matter of fact, his name means being cursed. It means to bow the knee, to be bent low, to be subjugated. That's what Canaan means. And if you don't think that's part of it, you're like, okay, well, okay. But I still think somebody else is cursed. Okay. Then you might believe, well, they did fight against the Israelites, so they should always be cursed. Okay. You know, God does deal with individuals. Sometimes we think God just will, this whole group, no matter how far back we go, they're all evil. They're every last one. And that's not true. God deals with people individually. But we assume that there's a generational curse from Canaan himself all the way to anybody that lives today. People assume that. And if you wanted to know about generational curses have nothing to do with people that are saved, people that believed in Jesus Christ. It doesn't. Matter of fact, in the Ten Commandments, in Exodus 20, verse 4, you'll find out generational curses have nothing to do with those that believe in God, that believe Him for real. It has everything to do with those people that hate Him. Come on, y'all. That's Exodus 20, verse 4. The end of verse 4. You'll see that. But people still think, because they're from this person, that every last one of them is cursed. The scribes and the Pharisees know the law. It is what it is. They're students of the law. They know the law very well. But they've used the law to make themselves become powerful. They start to abuse the law. They have all these rituals, and if you don't follow what they want, they claim you're spiritually unclean. You're ritually unclean. You'll have a stigma behind your name that for most people, it will make or break you. And you wonder, and most of us are like, well, when they came to Jesus and they were mad at Jesus, why didn't he just wash his hands? Why didn't he just comply? So you want the Son of God to comply with a law that's not even from God. It's one that's built upon ritual. So they dealt with spiritual things in this manner. But the Canaanite woman comes to Jesus and calls him by his covenant name. And then calls him by his, basically calls him the Messiah. She comes to him in faith. She didn't come to him with rituals. And that's one of the things we've gotten away with or got away from. We don't come to God in faith. Because some of us say God doesn't heal anymore. We say a lot of things that's not in Scripture. And then when we get sick, we want God to heal us, but we've been talking bad about him the whole time. You can sing all the songs you want in church. You can give all the money you want. You can do all these ritualistic things and still not believe in it. You can be doing it for show, which the Scribes and Pharisees were doing. They knew the law, but they didn't have the law inside their hearts. They didn't know the lawgiver. So both of them wanted the same thing, the Scribes and Pharisees and this Canaanite woman. You got one that was dealing with washing your hands. And you got another one that just wanted a word from God. The Scribes and Pharisees didn't see Jesus as the Messiah. They saw him as a nuisance. But the Canaanite woman, who was supposed to be cursed forever, sees Jesus and goes to him in faith, knowing that he would do the impossible. She got what she needed because of faith. She had faith in the one that created everything, the one that spoke things into existence. See, some of y'all might not think very much of the Canaanite woman because of who she's from. That her family did some dirt back in the day. Some of y'all still think she's cursed because of all the things that her family had done. Because she was an enemy to God's people at one time, her family. And we don't think she deserves God's love. But the funny thing is, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. That means while we were the enemy of God, Christ died for you and me.